It has begun. At 4:55 a.m. Eastern Time this morning, Saturn crossed into the heart of the Sun. The alignment we spoke about, the one that has not occurred in Aries since 1998, is no longer approaching. It is no longer something to prepare for. It is here. Right now, as you listen to these words, Saturn sits inside the solar fire, invisible to the naked eye, completely hidden by the sun's overwhelming light, but burning through everything false in your life with surgical precision. If you watched yesterday's transmission, you prepared. You reflected on what you built since 1998. You identified the structure in your life that needs attention. You may have written your cazimi intention in those quiet hours before dawn. Perhaps you woke at 4:55 a.m. and sat in 4 minutes of silence as Saturn entered the solar core. Perhaps you felt something shift, even if you could not name it. But whether you prepared or not, whether you were awake or sleeping, the reset has begun. The sky does not wait for permission. The cosmos does not pause for readiness. Saturn crossed the threshold this morning, and nothing can undo that crossing. The question now is not whether the reset is happening. The question is what you will do with it before the window closes. Today is not a day like other days. This is not ordinary Tuesday energy dressed in cosmic language. Between this morning and tonight, 3 major celestial events stack in precise sequence, creating a corridor of transformation that will not repeat for another 28 years. The first already happened. Saturn entering the heart of the Sun at 4:55 a.m. Eastern Time. The second comes this afternoon. The Sun forms a harmonious channel to Pluto at 2:16 p.m. The third arrives shortly after. The first quarter moon rises in Cancer at 3:17 p.m., demanding action, demanding movement, demanding that something change. Structure, power, movement. In that exact order, all compressed into one single day. This transmission is your guide for the next 12 hours. Stay with me. By the end, you will know exactly what to do with this rare window before it closes tonight. Let me tell you what happened this morning, while most of the world was sleeping, while cities were dark and quiet, while the unconscious mind was open and dreaming. Saturn, moving at its slow, ancient, methodical pace through the Zodiac, crossed within 17 arc minutes of the Sun's center. 17 arc minutes. This distance is smaller than the width of your thumbnail held at arm's length against the sky. At that precise threshold, Saturn entered what astrologers for thousands of years have called cazimi, the innermost zone of solar contact, the heart of the king. For weeks, Saturn was approaching the Sun, growing dimmer in the night sky, rising later and later until it disappeared entirely into the solar glare. When a planet gets this close to the Sun, astrologers say it becomes combust, weakened, overwhelmed, its voice drowned out by solar brilliance. A combust planet struggles to express itself. Its significations become confused, delayed, frustrated. But cazimi is different. Cazimi is not weakness. Cazimi is the exception to the rule. When a planet crosses close enough to actually enter the Sun's heart, when it passes through that innermost 17 arc minute threshold, something alchemical occurs. The planet is not burned. It is purified. It is not silenced. It is given a new voice, a new mission, direct instructions from the source of all light. At 4:55 a.m. this morning, Saturn passed through that fire and emerged renewed. Think of metal being forged by a master blacksmith, Before the smith can shape the iron into a blade, the metal must enter the hottest part of the flame. It must glow white. It must become soft enough to receive new form. That is what happened to Saturn today. The planet of time, discipline, structure, limitation, responsibility, and long-term commitment entered the cosmic forge and received its new instructions. This conjunction of Sun and Saturn happens once per year, whenever the faster-moving Sun catches up to slow Saturn in the Zodiac. But the sign matters. Saturn cazimi in Aries, the sign of new beginnings, the sign of initiative, the sign of the pioneer and the warrior, happens only once every 29.5 years. The last time was April 1998. The next time will be 2055. You are standing in that rare window right now, not approaching it, not reflecting on it after it passes, but standing directly inside it. The Babylonians understood this. 5,000 years ago, in the temples of Mesopotamia, priest astronomers tracked every conjunction, every cazimi, every moment when planets touched the sun. They carved their observations into clay tablets that survive to this day. And when Saturn, the planet they called the Old One, the planet they associated with boundaries and consequences and the weight of inherited fate, merged with the sun, they understood it as something profound. They called it the renewal of cosmic law. In Babylonian cosmology, the sun was the supreme judge, the eye that sees all things, the source of truth that cannot be deceived. Saturn was the keeper of boundaries, the enforcer of limits, the planet that held the memory of all contracts, all debts, all obligations accumulated across time. When these two merged, the old contracts were being dissolved. The tablets of fate were being rewritten. The laws that governed the previous cycle were being burned away, and new laws were being sealed in fire. The Byzantines inherited this knowledge and gave it Christian form, and in their magnificent cathedrals, with ceilings covered in golden mosaics, they depicted the cosmos as a sacred hierarchy, with the sun representing divine illumination, the light of God that reveals all hidden things. Saturn represented the weight of time pressing down on mortal shoulders, the karma of ancestors, the structures humans build to survive in a fallen world. When Sun and Saturn merged in Byzantine understanding, it was the moment when heaven examined Earth. Every structure built by human hands was tested. Those built with integrity, with truth, with genuine commitment, would be strengthened and blessed. Those built on deception, on half-truths, on foundations that were never solid, would crack, would crumble, would be exposed for what they always were. This morning, that ancient accounting began again. Now, you may not see the full results today. Saturn works slowly, over months and years, not hours and days. But the audit has started. The examination is underway. The structures in your life, your relationships, your career, your daily habits, your health, your home, your sense of who you are and what you are doing here. All of it is now passing through solar fire. You may already be feeling it. The body always knows before the mind can name it. Since yesterday, or perhaps for the past several days, certain sensations may have intensified. A heaviness in the chest that is not quite sadness, but feels like weight. A tightness across the shoulders and upper back, as if something is pressing down. Pressure at the base of the skull, where the spine meets the head, where ancient traditions say the ego anchors to the physical form, Saturn rules the skeletal system, especially the spine and the knees. These are the structures that hold us upright against gravity. These are the parts of the body that bear weight, that endure pressure, that maintain their integrity over decades of use. When Saturn enters solar fire, these areas often speak. Listen to them. Some of you woke this morning feeling different, even if you cannot explain how. A strange clarity, a sense of certainty you did not have yesterday, as if fog lifted while you slept, and the landscape of your life suddenly became visible in sharper detail. This is the solar illumination reaching you. Others may feel heaviness, as if the weight of every choice, made over 28 years, is pressing down at once, as if time itself has become denser. This too is valid. This too is part of the cazimi experience. Saturn does not distinguish between easy and difficult. Saturn distinguishes between true and false. Sometimes truth is heavy. Pay attention to your energy today. Notice when it rises and when it falls. Notice what thoughts repeat. Notice what memories surface unbidden. The body is recalibrating to a new frequency, adjusting to a Saturn that has been renewed, that has received fresh instructions from the source. This is not a day to push through exhaustion with caffeine and willpower. This is a day to listen, to move when movement is called for, and to rest when rest is needed. If memories from the late 1990s have been surfacing, people you knew then, choices you made then, paths you chose or paths you abandoned, relationships that began or ended around that time. This is Saturn completing its circuit. The planet is returning to where it stood 28 years ago. Your cellular memory responds to this return, even when your conscious mind has forgotten. 3 voices are speaking today. 3 celestial bodies are delivering messages that build upon each other in precise sequence. This is not coincidence. This is cosmic architecture. The first voice spoke this morning while most of you slept. Saturn, from inside the heart of the sun, asked its eternal question. What have you built? What structures have you created with the time you have been given? What responsibilities have you accepted and carried faithfully? Which responsibilities have you abandoned or ignored? What disciplines have you maintained, and which have you allowed to crumble? Saturn does not ask these questions to punish. Saturn asks them to clarify. The cazimi moment burns away all self-deception, all the stories we tell ourselves about who we are and what we have done. What remains after the fire is the truth, not the truth we wish were true, not the truth we present to others, the actual truth of how we have used our years. If you were awake at 4:55 a.m. and sat in silence, you may have received a clear message, a word, an image, a feeling in your chest that communicated something your mind could not argue with. Hold on to that. It came from the source. If you slept through the exact moment, do not worry. The message was still delivered to your unconscious. It will surface in the coming days, through dreams, through sudden realizations, through circumstances that force you to confront what you have been avoiding. The second voice speaks this afternoon. At 2:16 p.m. Eastern Time, the Sun, still carrying Saturn's essence within it, forms a sextile to Pluto. A sextile is a harmonious angle, 60 degrees, that opens a channel between 2 planetary energies. It creates flow where there could be friction. It allows communication where there could be silence. The Sun sextile Pluto opens a channel between conscious will and the deepest transformation. Whatever you committed to this morning, Pluto adds power to it this afternoon. So Pluto takes your intention and drives it down into the unconscious, into the roots of your psyche, into the places where real change begins. But Pluto also asks its own question. What must be transformed? What are you holding on to that is already dead? What fear have you been carrying for so long that you forgot it was fear and started thinking it was just who you are? What power have you given away to people, to institutions, to old versions of yourself that needs to be reclaimed? Pluto's voice is quieter than Saturn's. Saturn speaks in clear pronouncements. This is solid. This is not. This will endure. This will crumble. Pluto whispers. Pluto speaks in images and feelings that bypass the rational mind. Pluto reaches into parts of you that are hidden even from yourself. Between 2 and 3 p.m. today, find a few minutes of stillness. You do not need an hour. You do not need a meditation cushion. You need 5 minutes where no one will interrupt you. Close your eyes. Breathe slowly. Ask yourself, what needs to die so something new can live? Then wait. Do not force an answer. Let it rise on its own. It may come as a word, an image, a memory, a sensation in your body. It may surprise you. It may have nothing to do with what you expected. Trust it anyway. The third voice speaks at 3:17 p.m. Eastern Time. The moon, which was new and invisible 1 week ago, has grown to its first quarter phase. In Cancer, the sign the moon rules, the sign of home, of family, of emotional roots, of belonging. The first quarter. Moon is not a time for stillness. It is not a time for reflection. It is a time for action. 1 week ago, on March 18th, the new moon planted a seed. An intention was set, consciously or unconsciously. Today, that seed cracks open. Something pushes through the soil toward light. Something that was potential becomes actual. The moon in Cancer adds emotional depth to this action. Whatever you do this afternoon, let it come from feeling, not from calculation. This is not about logic or strategy or optimizing outcomes. This is about moving from the heart, from the gut, from the place inside you that knows what it knows without needing reasons or explanations. The first quarter moon demands movement. You cannot remain still and receive its full gift. Between 3 and 6 p.m. today, take action. Send the message you have been composing in your head for days. Make the phone call you have been avoiding. Register for the course. Submit the application. Show up at the place you have been curious about. Begin the conversation you have been rehearsing. The action does not need to be large. It does not need to be dramatic or life-changing on the surface. It needs to be real. It needs to be a genuine step, not a performance of a step, not a symbolic gesture, but actual movement in a direction that matters to you. Now I speak directly to each sign. What follows is not prediction. It is guidance. Find yours and listen, not just with your ears, but with your whole body. Notice what resonates. Notice where you feel recognition. That resonance is your answer. Aries, the cazimi happened in your first house this morning. This is the most personal reset possible. What your identity itself is being restructured. The self you have been for the past 28 years is entering the forge. Today, look in the mirror, not to judge, not to criticize, just to witness. The person looking back at you is beginning a new chapter that will unfold over the next 3 decades. Who will they become? That question is yours to answer, starting now. Taurus, Saturn burns through your 12th house, the house of the unconscious, of dreams, of what is hidden even from yourself. Patterns you have been running on autopilot for years are suddenly visible today. Pay attention to your automatic reactions. When you respond without thinking, pause. Ask where that response came from. Is it authentically yours, or is it inherited programming? With Gemini, the cazimi illuminates your 11th house of community and friendship. Look at the people around you today with fresh eyes. Are they supporting who you are becoming, or anchoring you to who you were? Some connections will deepen through this fire. Others may begin to fade. Both are part of the restructuring. Cancer, Saturn burns through your 10th house of career and public reputation. The question today is not what do you do, but why do you do it? Is your work aligned with your soul's purpose? Or have you been sleepwalking through a job that pays bills but feeds nothing deeper? That question will not leave you alone today. Leo, the cazimi falls in your 9th house of belief and meaning. Everything you thought you knew is being examined. Today, you may feel called to question something you have always accepted. Do not resist. The beliefs that survive solar fire are the only ones worth keeping. Virgo, Saturn purifies your 8th house of shared resources and deep bonds. Where have you given too much? Where have you taken without repaying? The ledger is being balanced today, financially, emotionally, karmically. Trust what you feel. Libra, the cazimi burns through your 7th house of partnership. Every contract you have made with another person is under examination. Is your primary relationship equal? Are both people giving and receiving in fair measure? The truth surfaces today. Scorpio, Saturn restructures your 6th house of daily routines and health. What you do each day becomes what you are over time. Today, one habit reveals itself as essential. Another reveals itself as poison. Pay attention. Sagittarius, the cazimi illuminates your 5th house of creativity and joy. When did you last create something purely for pleasure? When did you last play without purpose? Saturn asks today why joy has gone missing, and what would invite it back. Capricorn, your ruling planet enters solar fire in your 4th house of home and foundation. This may feel intense. Is your foundation solid, or have you built your life on ground that was never stable? The answer becomes clear today. Aquarius, Saturn burns through your 3rd house of communication. The inner voice that narrates your life is being restructured. Is that voice kind or cruel? Today, a new voice begins to form. Make sure it serves you. Pisces, the cazimi falls in your 2nd house of values and self-worth. What do you actually value? Not what you were taught to value, but what your soul knows is precious. Some things you chased will feel worthless today. Some things you ignored will reveal themselves as treasures. Here is what to do with the remaining hours of this sacred day. This afternoon, between 2 and 3 p.m., find 5 minutes of complete stillness. Close your eyes. Place one hand on your heart. Breathe slowly and deeply. Ask yourself, what is ready to transform? Then wait in silence. The answer will come as a word, an image, a feeling, a memory. Do not judge it. Do not analyze it. Just receive it and remember it. At 3:17 p.m. or shortly after, take one concrete action. This is not optional if you want to work with today's energy consciously. The 1st quarter moon demands movement. If you do nothing, the energy moves through you anyway, but unconsciously, chaotically. If you act with intention, you direct the energy. You shape it, You anchor it into physical reality. Send the message. Make the call. Write the first paragraph. Take the first step. Sign up. Show up. Move. One real action, no matter how small, seals the work of the entire day. Tonight, before you sleep, take paper and pen. Write one sentence at the top. For the next 28 years, I commit to. Keep it simple. Keep it honest. Saturn rejects half-truths. Only write what you are genuinely willing to build toward, even when it is hard, even when you do not feel like it, even when the world tells you to quit. Then fold the paper. Place it somewhere. You will see it when you wake tomorrow. The commitment is now sealed, not just in your intention, but in the fabric of time itself. The cazimi is complete. Saturn has passed through solar fire and emerged renewed, carrying fresh instructions, beginning a new 28-year mission. And whether you feel it clearly or sense it only dimly, you have been renewed with it. 28 years from now, in 2055, Saturn will return to this exact degree of Aries. The seeds you plant today will have grown into forests or withered from neglect. The structures you commit to building will either stand strong after 3 decades of weather, or they will have collapsed under the weight of their own falseness. There is no third option. Time reveals everything. The choice before you is not whether to participate. The reset has already happened, and Saturn has already crossed the threshold. The audit has already begun. The only choice remaining is whether you participate consciously, with full awareness, with clear intention, or whether you let it happen to you while you look away, while you scroll through distractions, while you pretend this is just another day. Saturn does not punish. Saturn clarifies. Saturn does not limit for the sake of limitation. Saturn defines. Saturn shows you where the walls actually are, so you can stop crashing into them in the dark. And definition, true definition, clear seeing, is the beginning of freedom. If you have felt lost in recent weeks, directionless, uncertain of who you are or where you are going, today offers something rare, a fixed point, a marker in time, a moment when the sky itself says, "Here, this is where you are. This is what is true. Start here. Build from here. Everything else is negotiable. But this foundation is real. The 3 voices have spoken. Saturn asked what you have built and shown you what is true. Pluto asked what must transform and open the door to the underworld. The moon asks what action you will take and will not accept silence for an answer. You have heard the questions. Now, in the hours that remain, you answer. Not with words, with movement, with commitment, with one real step in a direction that matters. The sky has delivered its message. What comes next is yours to write.